Hello, and thank you for joining me for this live pop-in from Transcending Ascension. I want to bring you a visual here on the Akashic records, something that can only be explained in words because a picture really needs to be painted on something you might not be aware of, on a concept that we are birthing into existing more tangibly, and the Akashic records. Now, this book series that I'm going to use to paint the picture I haven't heard a lot of other people mention, and it's the Fever series by Karen Morning. Karen Morning. And the Fever series, it's all about phase. I read it back in my days of magic, where I reading fictional magic, I mean. And a lot of the things once learning this stuff for real became true. And the books continued on actually until a couple years ago, and I stayed up to date with them. And she ended up having a stroke, which kind of proves that she was channeling other information, whether she realized it or not. There's a lot of truth in fictional information. So, in this book series, there's a character named Danny, and she can travel at insane speeds. They all have different superpowers, and hers is super speed. Okay. And she describes going into the slipstream, and that was how she did it. She did actually like described that her fast running was not due to actually running fast in the standard plane of existence. She went into this slipstream. She describes how this actually took extra energy. She would have to eat a lot of things, usually chocolate bars, which I, working with energy, can actually see the correlations now that there is something in a chocolate bar. It's not good long term, but there is something in a chocolate bar for an instant boost in energy, even when working magically. So there's just lots of truth. So you'd have to probably read the book to fully see what I'm telling you, because this is why fictional books can be so beautifully magic, is they help our brains print reality. Like they help our brains visualize creation. We are creator beings. I say this all the time. The all is mind. Yes, we know. But when we want to actually tangibly use this in real life as a human being, as a standard person, because even if we are spiritually awakening, one concept I think we are all awakening further to is that there is no instant enlightenment or even permanent enlightenment that excuses you from being a humanoid. You are a human, and that takes different weaving, right? If you think that you can become an enlightened being and you get to enlightenment and you stay there like gurus and sages that we've seen, there is something to be said that there might be certain people like them, but other people are starting to agree that perhaps in these people are different creatures entirely. And they even said that with Jesus himself, that he was not of this world. So the ones that actually got enlightened, good for them, Buddha, Jesus, and then some others, like people have said Gandhi and Mother Teresa and all these. But are we going to say they were at the same enlightenment level? I don't know. And this is where variables happen. But where we deal with as the average Joe of enlighteners, of ascenders, of people of the human race that are looking to the star seeds, and there's lots of us. We're not that special. And some argue we're the only ones that are actually even real and everybody else is NPC. But I think everybody can be awakened, and once they awaken, they probably realize they're a star seed. So the difference of what makes you a star seed is that you are a tiny bit awakened already, probably because of your trauma, right? So that trauma allows you to feel like a star seed already. Everybody, I bet you, and I have to test it because honestly, I have tested it. You have to test is what I mean, because I have tested it in my own life, and I've watched people that didn't think they were awake and that were complete sheeple start to come online and start to wake up, and things in their life come together, and they start putting two and two together over many varying things of how they were always being talked to from God. So this is why those people, those NPCs will, if they were to wake up, might always have seen that there was seeds planted, but did they grow from the seed? And that's the difference. Did they grow from the seed? And we all have previous things that get us going. And this is where the Akashic records come in, sit in, and this is where the Akashic records are the playing field eveners. How that 4-minute mile got cracked, and within a month, tons of people were doing it. Within a few days, uh, mm, within a month, one person was doing it. Within 6 months, tons of people were doing it because as soon as one person allows these things into their mind, it's in the Akashic records and we can all access it. The more people that upload information, the more people can download the information, just like the olden days when we used to use, oh, it started with an L. It always was getting shut down. LimeWire was one of them, and then there was Pirates Bay. They were great. I think they're still around. I don't download anymore because you can stream everything. But back in the day of actually downloading and being like a pirate, the uploading and the downloading ratio mattered, and you actually did not need as many uploaders. You only needed a few uploaders, but the more the better. Then the faster the downloaders, and the more downloaders you could have. So the more uploaders of information you have, so the more of us that are having awakenings, the more of us having epiphanies, the more of us putting two and two together, like the original point of this discussion of visualizing the Akashic records, which you can only really do if you've read the Fever series, because I'm not good at explaining stuff. I'm just not. Not to adults. That's why I've moved on to children and I published a children book because I'm going to start with the ABCs of metaphysics, and just say things in the most plain terms I can. And it is helping with revelations of Open Throat Center. If you watch the show, Open Throat Center, um, which does amazing things for epiphanies and does amazing things for tying two and two together, but bringing the ability for you to see this picture of what the slipstream of the Akashic records looks like. You'll need to understand that place that Danny would go when she'd go into her superhuman speed. She'd go into the slipstream, which was a different realm. It was like imagine white and fast moving, but not really. And that's the Akashic records, except your mind goes into it and up in that slipstream highway, left, right, up, down, every direction you can imagine in more dimensions than you're capable of imagining is all information throughout time and space. Every decision you've ever thought about making is in there. Every decision any version of you has ever thought about making is in there. You're going to closer resonate, like if you're downloading and you're putting in search things. If you were actually downloading, like we were using our example in the old LimeWire days of searching for what the content you want to download, you're going to find that in the slipstream of the Akashic records faster if you know what you want to download. This is why intention and the aim of your mind matters so much, because whether you realize it or not, you are always in that slipstream of the Akashic records, like Danny and her high speed. It's always there. She just needs the energy to be able to facilitate that. So you have this unlimited resource of the Akashic records. What you need to be able to do is visualize it correctly as in a manner that works for you, because as long as you're tapping into that space, you can pull down any information you need, but it's probably going to need to be relevant to you. You are the magnetized being that, yes, you have conscious aims, conscious intentions, but overarchingly, especially if this is happening on an unconscious level, it's your subconscious that's always pulling from that slipstream of the Akashic records, because you are always in the Akashic records. You're never not. We're trying to paint a visualization here so you can consciously manifest from the Akashic records. So it's always there. It's like that LimeWire, Pirate Bay, internet uploading and downloading. The more people that upload information, the easier it is for you to download the information, because this information, as we all come online with it, it's why we're waking up more and more and more because of the Akashic records that we are always all inside. and how it's majority being pulled with people's subconscious. Their subconscious is picking out of the slipstream of the Akashic records our thoughts. So regular Joes that we call NPCs are going to start hearing our thoughts as uploaders. The starseed people are simply downloaders that became uploaders. We know why we're here. We're getting more online, and the information we are passionately searching for and having epiphanies and revelations with and upgrading and integrating into ourselves, that integration process, that alchemy that we hear a lot about, that is helping to upload this information into our Akashic records. Now, all the information of the Akashic records is there all the time anyways. What you're doing with your thought process is in this process is making it more easily accessible for everybody that wants to take part. So people that are just getting started, that are just starting to learn. Once upon a time, like books, especially like the Kybalion, I found that book relatively easy to read when I read it a few years ago, 10 or so, maybe a little less years ago, and found it the best book I'd ever found on spirituality because it was so easy to understand. Thanks to that book being so easy to understand, it created inside me a new matrix of understandability, to use that word again, where I could now digest other people's material like Bashar and other people I was already learning, but now with a new lens of being like, oh wow, or Abraham Hicks, where oh, I can really see what they're talking about now. When you understand the all is mind and that becomes at the forefront of your programming, it means within the Akashic record stream that you are always inside, the programs that are automatically going to be pulled for you are going to be the ones, like, because your subconscious is the one that's mainly always literally manifesting your entire life from the Akashic records. It's going to automatically start doing programs that you're going to want. So I'm always using spiritual examples because that's what I want. I want to be more spiritual. I want to be more enlightened. I want to be more advanced, knowing that there is no real full enlightenment because it's all just further expansion. Enlightenment is not a stopped position, I think, is one thing I'm seeing in this new shift that's happening over the last few days. I'm noticing I'm not alone in seeing that there is no full blown enlightenment. Something that I feel like a lot of us probably held in like a shame space is was just another trick, another entity to be released because there is no finished place. It's further growth, further conscious immersion in to that Akashic record space, into the slipstream that is always there for us to jump into. It's just at a different higher realm. Touching back to the beginning, keep the energy correct. These are things like boundaries, eating correctly, sleeping enough, honoring the self, which is so many little different things that will matter to you on what self-honoring really is. And for me, that's having these revelations and these ideas and saying, I'm going to say it too in my way. Because just like I saw Revelation from the Fever series, which is this fictional magic series I read years ago, well, and it kept going forever, and knowing that she's pulling from that Akashic record space, whether she realizes it or not, as she said her truth. Well, I'm going to say my truth because I'm also pulling from that slipstream, and this is my truth. And maybe there can't be enough people saying it because we are building up that Akashic record muscle so that we can tap into it easier, because this internet is not an accident. The divine created this so we could more truly understand how our own brain works. Just like I'm using the example of uploading and downloading, of streaming to explain the Akashic record, that's not an accident. The divine wanted us to have that ability so we could like further and deeper understand it. So it's no accident that we can use it. Right now, it's really easy. There's an app called StreamYard. It's not too much money and you get it and it uploads live to all these destinations that you want, and bam, you are now talking to the globe if you want at whatever varying degree you're at. That's okay, because the truth has to be said, and have not all of us are in a spiritual place, and I think that's okay, because again, we are in a revolution. So whether it's Ontario, Canada, or Tibet, there is different levels that we are going to be heading upwards spiritually. But if we connect, now we're going to go in a more, like, we're going to take this rocky ship. Like somebody posted today that has hit the next level, and they can just tell. And maybe that's true. There's certain places like Tibet, Japan, and other places that are further advanced than atheistic places like Canada. But by working together, by creating conscious Akashic record streams, that matrices that hold us all into play are running through the slipstream of the Akashic record. Like, it is an like, you cannot lock it down. There's nothing you can do to manipulate the Akashic records. What your matrices do of your own thought patterns is decide how you are going to pull from the Akashic records. It's basically personal to you, but just like our astrology, how like your Pluto, and that's probably how you tell a generation, like every 12 years or so, your Pluto is changing, and we all share that in a 12-year span. Okay, so same as a matrix. The entire Earth shares this overarching matrix, but it can jump and play around as you focus in on people's varying thought patterns. Like each country has a matrix, each family has a matrix, each individual has a matrix. And this is the age we're heading towards, and why you want to work on cultivating that sovereignty. And discernment is your path and your key to that sovereignty, because in your sovereignty, you now are in the slipstream of the Akashic records, picking and choosing your new programming based on your lived experience of the time, because you don't have to have a set matrix. That's just the way things used to be, and there'll probably always be those background ones, because if you know the law of rhythm and the and calling of the matrix is pendulums, which I see them sometimes as the same thing, and sometimes they could be almost different things, like thought patterns, matrices, pendulums. They are all these different varying ways that we're controlled. They're all different ways that we're robots, and other things think for us with, I keep saying them, but because it is thought patterns, programs, and they work in matrices, and it is coming from that overarching quantum space that we all can tap into, but they know how to energetically tie it together. Why? They don't even have to know anything like a magician and it shows in Doctor Strange and they tie all that stuff together. You don't actually have to know that, because the all is mind. You, even an average Joe, anybody, are always creating thought patterns, control matrices yourself based on repeated thought patterns. This is why you want to stay flexible. You never want to stay on the same thoughts. You yourself, this is one thing you can wake up into, are a perpetrator yourself of mind control. Like, you would be shocked. Different family dynamics you have, especially if you have children, anything you yourself. So, but the good reason why you want to see this is because you can see that thought A and thought B and thought C and thought D interlaced together, weaved together, and created a thought pattern, the thought matrix. And these repeat themselves and repeat themselves. And if we use the example of children here, as they age, this thought pattern that created over something silly they did as a toddler. Oh, you're silly. Oh, you just like to bother mommy. Oh, you just do this. Oh, and you create who they are, right? You're going to continue that and continue and that and continue that. And matrices can expand, and you'll probably add on to it as they age. And this is just one example with a child, but works do this. Everywhere does this to control your thoughts, whether on purpose or accident. Any organization that is going to repeat an idea and repeat a thought and repeat a concept is going to, like, it's like this is like why the monks do the sand art, and but then they also show you can be erased, because if you draw into something enough, like the Akashic records of yourself, that your energy body inside the Akashic records, you're drawing onto it. You're not, so you're etching, runes. You're etching runes also in that fever series. You're etching runes, and you are creating your own matrices inside yourself, or something else interlaces over you that frequency, and say it etches it into it, but there's always a certain amount of allowing. Like, but then it's hard because you're a child. So you allowed yourself to sit in that classroom and not walk out, right? You allowed yourself to listen to that parental lecture and not walk away. So there is always that moment of divinity where you are always allowed. This is why never take someone's BS. If you have someone in your life that likes to lecture you all the time, and perhaps it's an old person and you're trying to humor them, don't humor them, because we this is another thing where we want to always say we're going to be enlightened. Well, we always want to say, well, the all is mind, so I can just simply erase that rule because I'm confident in my all is mindness, that I'm not going to be a victim to this situation that everybody else is, like grandma always telling me my hair makes me gross. You know what I mean? Like that kind of situation. Oh, grandma, like we can learn to allow things, but you have to learn to feel when a matrix is forming, and to feel when you put up a boundary, and to feel, this is where magic, where we want to learn magic but not actually cast a spell, because you were always a magical vessel of that energy body that you are, but learn to throw off that. So if they shot something at you, throw it off. Always within yours to control. It's always within your energy field to be a master, especially right now, because, and this is, there's different plots and theories and stories that are happening right now, but I think the consensus is that a lot of the galactic higher situations, even our own internal cabal overlord systems, they're falling, and the age is ending. So that just literally makes sense. It is quite literally, age of Pisces is ending, it's the age of Aquarius now, and that as astrologically transitions over a few years, and then the shifts are happening more and more and more. A major one was obviously 2012, and so on and so forth. We are shifting into a new age. And so in that new age, we are going to automatically become more sovereign, which is why it is also important that you, honestly, this is why you head towards enlightenment and learn to control your own energy and learn to alchemize, because whether you like it or not, and if you're watching this, you probably like it. But there's going to be lots of people that we think of NPCs or sheeple that are not going to like it. And they're all of a sudden going to come into their power and go, oh my God, what do I do? Who's the boss? Someone needs to tell me what to do. And they're literally not going to be able to function. And this is, you see people panicking, and the Karens of the world, like they want that nanny state because they are so overlaid with thought matrices that they don't even know who they are as a sovereign individual person. So what you can do in this journey is, yes, try to visualize the Akashic records and literally get in there. And if you care to know that and are just tuning in, the Fever series, the character Danny, and how she gets into her super fast running power. Now you'd have to read, there's so many books, so you have to read all of them. They're fun though if you like fictional stories about magic, which I used to like before actually getting into magic, and then it was just wow. But you see that material repeat itself, and when you see material repeat itself, you want to tune in and listen, because whether that writer knew, and she was Karen Morning, um, that they were tapping in, they were indeed tapping in. A lot of us are channelers, resonators, because resonating your frequency into a harmony space is going to automatically put you in that slipstream of the Akashic record, where you are pulling in that information, which a lot of people call channeling. And I would say 99.9% of the time, what channelers are really doing is, okay, now full on imagine the avatar here, because they are that good at narrowing it down, especially a really good channeler, Bashar level. They are avatar taking their braid, sticking it into the slipstream, and directly plugging into somebody else's energy stream. They are directly connecting in through the Akashic records with their avatar. That avatar braid, that's real. That's your spine. That's your entire, but that keeps going up, right? I don't, if it's actually in our hair, I don't think so. We do have stuff in our hair, but that whole thing they're trying to show you in Avatar is real. And you can get to that boss level of directly connecting. However, you want to make sure you're boss level because you could do it at amateur level. But what did you connect into? Do you know how to concentrate your stream to that narrow of a degree that you know exactly who you're connecting to? And there's stories, like Lee Harris, if you've ever heard of him, has stories of the Z's came to him. He didn't do anything; they just came to him. I don't even think Bashar has that story because Bashar was trying to channel, and it happened. Abraham Hicks was trying to channel. Like a lot of the people that became channelers were trying to channel to begin with. They were sitting there and doing it on purpose. And that's something if you want to explore, that's a whole avenue. I've done it myself. What I'll tell you is that I can pull in tons of information, but I've never given up my consciousness because I've hit that moment. I've hit that wall in that where you got to learn to just feel energy. And I've hit that, okay, it's time to give up control. And I just never, no thanks. We got demons in the family history, like schizophrenia. So I just don't, better safe than sorry, and to each their own. And honestly, I think it takes a next level soul incarnation to perhaps even allow that. But then there's tons of information that says that you shouldn't even give up your entire control of your entire consciousness. And that is causing a huge amount of karma for you in future lives. So that's again what you're going to want to start embodying and creating your new thought matrices out of. This is the kind of stuff I work within of creating my new life because once it became obvious that okay, the world's magic, I just need to be able to see it. Means if I want to see it more, I need to create new lived thought patterns of magic. So that means needing to be able to see, even like folding and putting away the laundry, as something magical. And you learn how it's magical by studying all the different channelers and ancient religions and all the things, finding the correlations, finding what resonates with yourself and your own intuitive, meditative, channeled, thought led space. Because there's still the jury is out on if we're all even heading to the same universe. Because I truly actually think the divine is powerful enough for us each to have our own universe. Lots say this and say it to varying degrees that we are each our own universe and they just kind of overlap each other. And sometimes if you're having a disagreement with somebody and they say blah blah happened and you say no, blah blah b happened, you're both right because the Mandela effect, and you're both from two different worlds, and you're just in the same world right now. And then if you ask grandma who was in the story and they side with the other person, it doesn't mean you weren't right. You just might have slipped streams, and grandma and Jesse were on the same slipstream. They were from the same timeline or one that was just similar enough that that story was shared. That is how intricate this stuff gets. And we've all heard of the Mandela effect. We all have lived experience with the Mandela effect to varying degrees, where I saw A, I saw B. But the proof is in the pudding that we all saw a lot of things like the fruit of the loom symbol and sex in the city, sex and the city. Looney Tunes is one of those things I can verify. So there's so many things, but those are the slipstreams. What you're seeing is that's physical slipstreaming. So that's different slipstreams that came into physicality that start to cross over. If you watch the new show Loki, I didn't really watch it, but I saw the board, and it's in the new Ryan Reynolds movie Deadpool, and they showed in that world. So it shows how the streams, and now they're allowing. Interesting, the show says that now they're allowing the slipstreams to vary. The original point of the Loki show is it wasn't allowed. They kept the prime timeline and cut out all the rest. Maybe that was true. And maybe that's why the control matrices were always winning. But now that the variables are allowed to be open and lots of galactic information and ancient, the Kali Yugas and the changing of the ages, so ancient and channeled information and Hollywood all agree that possibly maybe now we all are allowed our own timeline. So this is why we're really in an age of manifestation here. And I'm living the reality of this being accurate. Once you get into a personal sovereign way of existing, so the truth of who know thyself, what they always say, you need to know thyself. Knowing thyself. Guess what? When you know thyself, you're probably going to want to be a good person because the truth of who you are is divine. Okay, good. Check. Good person. Okay, continue to know thyself. Now, this comes up in what do you actually want to do with your life? Now, one thing a lot of us get stuck on is social media, and I found it's fantastic to just be social about this information and leave it at that. It is fantastic. Like once upon a time, we'd go to high school and tell our friends stuff, and they'd be like, "Ooh," and that was the world, right? That's where we lived. But then, like as you get older, the adultness, especially if you're not in an enlightened place, which those are few and far between. The majority of the average Joe spiritual person is anywhere, Ontario, Canada, where it's atheistic here, or you might be stuck in a place that's primarily Christian or Muslim or Jewish or even Hindu is actually the closest to being right to what's universally true, but even they get jammed up into different examples of stuff where you just hit a plateau, you hit a wall, and you are not advancing. So the religion of the self is personal for you and what is your sovereign truth of what you want to manifest for your future. So first, decide what do you actually want for your future. That's next, okay? Once you realize you're a good person, check. Maybe you got to go try to be Jesus for a while. I did. And then realize that's just going to burn you out. And you actually have to think of yourself, not in a selfish way, because you've decided you want to be a good person. That's for sure. Okay. But then what with that do you want to do? Well, art. And I did my Sunday service on this yesterday. Art. And I'm not a good artist, but everything in life is art. Everything in life is art. Because art, this is the thing that came through as a revelation, is art is when the divine is with you. Well, when the divine is with you, that is art. So, what could you do in life? This is just a hint to help you find purpose. If your purpose is to hail Satan, I don't know, go hail Satan. Like your purpose of your, please don't, but your purpose of manifestation is your individualized universe, the slipstream of the Akashic records that is yours to tap into at any point is unlimited. The quantum field is unlimited. There's no limitation because if you can imagine it to be real, it's real. Is it all physically real? That's where I don't think so, but that's where our Mandela effects of physical realities overlap. I think there's probably still a ton of physical reality somewhere you don't even exist, somewhere maybe you look different. Who knows? That's where things get weird. But what you can know right now is that you are in full control, that you need to find your own sovereignty, that you need to use discernment to find that sovereignty, that you need to get visualization of what the slipstream of the Akashic records is to truly experience how it's infinite. Now, I brought up my example of the series, the Fever series, Danny, the character, she runs really fast, she gets to the slipstream if you want to discover it for yourself. Um, it painted a picture for me that I haven't even read the books in years, but it just came to me and I always knew it was something. She's going to a different realm. It's not like she's actually running faster. It's that she's just running in this realm and it uses a lot of energy. That just checks so many boxes of right now. That's of how energy works and how manifestation works, of how energy works. So this is your work right now. Decide what you want to do in this world, okay? Don't even overly worry about money because it's weird how like when you decide, because just decide, you don't decide you want money, but you can decide that you want to survive. You can decide that you want safety. You can decide that you want, and the variables on what's inside your house can differ because we all struggle with our own wanting to be humble, but then wanting not to die and wanting to be happy and but not wanting to be spoiled. Like we all have those varying degrees where we have to play with, and that's to our own temperament, which will have a lot to do with astrology, which is why I always advise people to get into their astrology, their specific charts, and human design, because your energy levels will matter off human design. So I'm a projector. I don't have that much energy. It's very limiting on the things and where blah blah blah. But if you're a generator, you've got tons of energy. If you're a manifester, you're a boss. If you're a manifesting generator, you're probably going to seem very ADD. If you're a reflector, you're you're very rare. You're only like 1%. I don't know if I ever met one, so I'm not going to give you an example, but they're said to be quiet. Either way, know thyself and then get into the slipstream and manifest the life of your dreams. You can do it. I believe in you. Goodbye for now. Transcending Ascension.